Whoa, we're live. All right.
That's right. Hey, everybody. We are live with the first three Musty Wargamers. And so today we've got three channels coming together for a chat and a discussion. And we have Deano from TheSoloWargamingShow. We've got Rusty from Helcarexe and myself, Palmer, from Heresyproductions. And so we got real loose format tonight. We're just hanging out for an hour. We're just going to talk a little bit for those of you that have joined from other people's channels, just a little bit about our channels real quick. And we're going to start with Deano over at TheSoloWargamingShow. There you go, Deano.
Hey, I think most of y'all, my viewers, know who I am, so it's really, I'm trying to reach out to your vast audience, Palmer. On my show, our channel is called The Solo Wargaming Show, and that actually comes from a podcast I used to do. I actually have a few subscribers that remember it from when I used to be on the miniatures page, and that's kind of, I started the podcast from the conversations we used to do on there. But to tell you guys a little bit about myself, I am the author and creator of Journey to the Overland. So I do videos for that, which is a solo tabletop role-playing game that I designed when I was 16 years old, actually. I designed it, and I went off to the Army for 18 years. I mean, not 18, but at the age of 18, and copyrighted it while I was in the Army. And then about 20 years later, 30 years later, I actually started trying to publish it. Mostly I'm into war gaming as opposed to board gaming. So my roots go back to Avalon Hill. And even before that, it goes back to the old wargaming books. Like, I'm a real big fan of Don Featherstone. He'll always have a place in my heart. The first book I got on wargaming was called, I think it was called Featherstone's Complete Wargaming. And man, for a 16-year-old kid in Detroit, it like opened up a whole world to me as far as just miniatures and wargaming, and actually you could actually play out battles with these guys. So pretty much, other than that, I think everybody, what my channel focuses on is kind of general hobby stuff. I do like a little news segment. I do some discussions, and mostly kind of look at what I'm painting or what I'm working on. There's not any one big game I'm into, but typically I really like to show like my painting, things I've painted, and kind of discuss stuff that's coming out. So what about you, Rusty?
Howdy. Well, most people that are from my channel would know me as Helcarexe26. As you can see here in the command bunker, you get to see a picture of it. In some of my videos, you got a little tour of it when I was showing off some of my stuff. But for an individual, I've been playing games since the 70s. As a young lad in my teens. Yeah, I'm that old. They named the bird after some of this around here. But over the years, I've been into like Avalon Hill, SPI. I cut my teeth on board games when I was a youngster, and they put Third Reich, Guns of August, what do you call it? Air Force, Dauntless, Flat Top, Alpha Omega, just those kind of board games. And because I had 5 other brothers. And when you're living in Minnesota, yes, yeah, and you spend a lot of time in the wintertime, what do? You play board games. And then we got into D&D. We played D&D for quite a few years. And I'm a big fan of playing that game. Every once in a while, we dig it out or play a campaign or two. But, and then after graduating high school, one of the first things I ever did when I was about 12 years old, I designed my first game. And using green ornament, because we had all the 6-sided dice from like Parcheesi and Monopoly and all that, so we collected them all up, and then we made our first game basically playing with ornament. I actually wrote down rules Yeah, I was like, well, the range of this bazooka goes this far, right? This far. And this was our first foray into miniature wargaming. We wrote our own rules. We didn't even know there was at the time this thing called miniature wargaming. We just kind of went into it through Green Army Game. And then
start calling you H.G. Wells.
well, yeah, we sat around a few times drinking, at the pub, H.G. Wells and I. But that's yeah. So we then after graduating from high school, I designed another game, which is Legions Unleashed, which is a fantasy game, which is I based it out of the D20 system of from D&D. So we had like, how do we play big giant battles with our D&D characters? Well, I wrote some rules for that, and that's it. Then we would have battles and stuff for our D&D characters. And then later on in life, in about the mid 80s, we got into started playing with Napoleonics with different individuals, continued playing board games. And that was my first experience really into miniature warfare. It was Napoleonics and American Civil War and American War of Independence. And that continued on. And then when I was in the Army with some of my buddies, we got introduced while we were playing BattleTech, still play BattleTech, and got into, we needed some infantry for BattleTech, and ended up, it's like, okay, where do we get some miniatures? And it was, we picked them up through Warhammer 40K, Epic, the little guys for the Epic scale. And that's how we got into playing Warhammer. And I haven't really stopped playing Warhammer ever since either. I'm still playing Epic too. And so if you watch my channel, you still see me playing BattleTech. You see me still doing stuff, playing with painting for Warhammer and 40K. I like my historicals. I'm still building stuff for 15 mil. And somewhere around here, I got a lot of micro armor stuff too. So you name it, I got it.
The kitchen sink.
Yes, I played a lot of different games. So you probably name a game or two. I probably played it. One time.
You are officially the only guy I've ever met that actually played Napoleonics. God, man, that is so cool. Yes, I always have envied Napoleonic guys, man, with the big battalions and regiments and stuff. But that's way too many rules for me, man.
You meet up a bunch of individuals that you always hear about the little counters, rivet counters. Really big into historicals, and it has to be just precise in whatever you're doing. You get into guys that play Napoleonics, and it's like, well, according to that unit had this buff, and then this color here and this color there, and it's like, if it isn't that, then it's not that unit. Like, okay.
You know what? Napoleonics is one of them games when I go to a convention, at least I used to. I mean, you don't really see people hosting them no more, but you used to could go to the conventions, man, and get in like them 10-player Napoleonic games. They were actually pretty cool.
Yes, you can get into some big ones. I've been into some where we had 20 people on the side, and the table was probably 30 feet long, and it's actually during the complete battle, like Leipzig or something like that. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, but I got out of Napoleonics probably about 5-6 years ago. I sold off most of my armies. There just wasn't
That sounds pretty good too, though, doesn't it? I mean, it holds its value, right?
Yes. I made a lot of money off of it. I turned
long as you don't mispaint a tassel or something. Right?
Yeah.
I can't buy these, man. That tassel is supposed to be white, not yellow. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, what are you up to, Palmer?
Well, I don't have nearly as an illustrious background as you guys. I kind of came across tabletop gaming after D&D in the late 80s. And so I was exposed to some different things, and I played it as a kind of a younger kid, but didn't play it to the extent tabletop games as I do now. Like I kind of was just first introduced to it, and then through college and stuff, and that was mainly Warhammer 40K actually. And then through college, I kind of fell out of it, and because I liked some of the background and stuff in Warhammer, I kind of would do the video games and stuff as I was in college. And then years later, like in 2011, I got heavily back into 40K. And part of that was actually because of the video game Space Marine. It was a bit of a catalyst. But then to make a long story short, like I guess after doing 40K, I wanted to try other things. So I got into bolt action and musket and tomahawks. And then I did this YouTube channel as I was painting my Warhammer stuff up. And so I've been doing that since 2011 now. And I've just gotten into a lot of games since then. And I've just kind of been dabbling in a lot of things. And I still like Games Workshop stuff, but I don't kind of restrict myself to that. I kind of play a lot of different stuff now. And so I would say on my channel, for those that are, subscribers watching, I musket and tomahawks historically has been a big one. I play Saga. I enjoy that. So I enjoy historical skirmish, but I also like fantasy and sci-fi elements too. I enjoy that as well. So really just as much. I get into some of the historical periods, but that's kind of a learning area for me. As much as I enjoy history, I wouldn't say I came to it, tabletop gaming, through the history. I kind of approached the history in a lot of ways through tabletop gaming. One area where I kind of had an interest in the history first was the French Indian War. Really enjoyed that growing up as in the Northeast of the U.S. and sort of school, learning about that period. Really kind of, I was interested in it. But now on my channel, like, I do what I think to be a little bit of everything. I put up just my painting progress is what the channel started as. But now I'll kind of do everything from just chats where I just talk about various things, like my Heresy Hump Days in the middle of the week, just showing progress, talking about games coming up and just various concepts in wargaming as I see them. And then, product reviews and just things that I like that I come across and stuff. So pretty much it.
Eclectic cake.
Go ahead, Rusty.
Yeah, it's was just sitting there when you were talking. It's like trying to remember when I first started watching your channel. It was you were painting up Eldar, doing something with Eldar. It's been so long.
Yeah.
And that's what drug me to your channel, because I was doing some stuff on Eldar. Because I have a large Eldar army, which I think you've seen in one of my videos.
Yeah.
And one of these days it's going to get painted.
We don't really talk about it much, but we both did the Bieltan scheme, like for Eldar, and that's where I think where we first started talking on YouTube.
Yes. And it's if you I have my Belton Reverend Titan that it's around here. It's in a box over there.
Yeah, I was very jealous of that.
It's
probably gonna.
I never
What's
did.
that?
I never did 40K. Like I never really. No, I never did the 40K, even though I like the fluff sometimes. But when I was doing Warhammer, I actually still have some of my original Dogs of War regiments. Do you guys remember them?
I know of them. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys were real cool, man. They had like some conquistadors. They did conquistadors, like some dwarven pirates, a lot of stuff in Warhammer miniatures. I just was looking through some of them the other day. Like the Kislev army. I used to like that till they got rid of it.
Yeah.
I took some of those Kislev cat and I made them into some Rough Riders for my 40K.
Yeah, they used to be kind of the same, I think. Like they were like the futuristic version of Kislev. The Rough Riders were.
Yeah. Yes.
So one of the things we're going to do with the show was like each of us brings kind of something different from our channels. And so like I think all of us know Palmer from his hump days and his kind of discussions and stuff. So, we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of bring some of that to the program. So Palmer, what did you say you wanted to discuss today? Kind of give us an idea of how it came to you, the background and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just to tag onto that too, what Dino said about all of us bringing different things. Yeah, Dino says he does a news channel, but I think he's got one of the better programs for miniature games. You know, with the news, he's really covers it really well. So if you guys haven't seen it, that's another thing that, you know, we're not replicating our channels in this show, but we kind of thought it'd be neat just to kind of bring some of it over. So when any of us like sort of have news items, we're just going to bring it up. But we thought it'd still be neat to have a theme just to sort of talk and have some discussion. And, you know, this is our first show, but this theme is just one of many that we could talk about. But we thought maybe we talk tonight about this idea of how your rules are supported in your games. Maybe on the one extreme, having your rules confined to a book that is released maybe even just in one book, like one edition, and then those rules are not updated unless another edition is made or consecutively when those editions are made. And so you really sort of rely on the book. And then the other side of the spectrum, because there could be a lot in between, could be where it's completely fluid online and it's constantly updated. And so you might see it, and every time you look, it's going to be changing. That could, and part of this too could really depend on the needs of the community of the game. You know, it may be, you know, more tournament focused, more simulation focused. And so, but without kind of going into the discussion any further, thought it might be just neat to get people's thoughts on how they like their games. Maybe we'll start with Rusty.
Okay. Most of the games that I play are basically hard copies. Now, you look at like Battletech, everything is in books. You got supplement books, you have the rule books, everything is in a book form. About the only thing that isn't in a book per se is like the mech sheets. And Palmer, you got a little bit of experience with this, and you just print those out. So if you need this many different types of units, you just print them. You know, print to play. But you look at, I'm starting to get into 4th edition Flames of War and Battle Group, and everything is hard copy there too. You know, there's nothing really online that you download. So when it comes to, personally, I'm a hands-on type of person. I like to have everything physically in hand, one way or the other. I've never been a type of person that just sits there and has a iPad or a laptop or something like that, where I just have to go on it all the time to get my information to play a game. I don't really like that too much. And when you look at, let's say, War Machine, they have a new army out. Is it the Grimkin or something like that? Everything for that army is online. So if you don't have any access to the internet, or you have an iPad or a smartphone, you can't play that army. So I'm kind of against it in that way. But now one game I do play a lot of, which is here. Yeah, the sheet. Which is the Scorpion Wars, which is now bought out by a different company, but everything, you know, they had everything online. So they were able to make changes to everything and make their data pretty simple and just bring it out like that. And when there was a new update or a new set of rules or changes to the rules, they would you just print it off or print the pages off you needed. And that, when you have a fluid game like that, that was kind of nice in one way, is that you didn't have to go out and buy a new book constantly, like one of those big companies that's over in UK, where they change their rule system every 2 years or so. And
yeah, I wonder which one that is.
I'm not naming names, but I don't want to get on a rant. Yeah, and have a lot of anger. That's why they make bourbon.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, that's. I don't know if that's answering the question too much, but as a whole, I prefer things to be hard copy. But if you're going to make it hard copy, don't change the stuff every 2 years on a whim. That's just annoying. That's all right. Because you're just, in some ways, not everybody is made out of money, or they have a money tree in the backyard. And you got to scrimp and scratch for every little dime you have.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think,
Deano, what do you think?
You know, I kind of agree with Rusty, but for a different reason. You know, I grew up, when you bought a game, you owned the game. When you bought a set of war game rules, you had the war game. So this whole concept of stuff being online and being updated online and supplemented online, I really do not like that, because first of all, the game is always fluid. You never know whether you're actually playing it correct. You know, you show up for a game with somebody and this guy has a sheet he downloaded last night saying his army can now do this. And you're like, well, what, you know, WTF? You know, I didn't get that sheet. And you know, another thing is, you know, if I buy a game and I own the game, you know, I want to have a feeling that I can pull that game off my counter at any time and play it and experience the game. Right. And even if you're talking to somebody, right, say you meet somebody and say, yeah, do you play Ambush? Like, yeah, I play Ambush. And, you know, you guys want to play the game. Well, this guy might say, well, yeah, I started playing 3 years ago and that rule was hacked or that rule was modified. And you're like, well, this is the way I play it. Right. And I haven't kept up with nothing online. So I think the whole concept of throwing the rules online and changing them, to me, I don't like that. And to be honest with you, you know, I think kind of the reason some companies try to do that now goes back to what Rusty was insinuating, you know, about one of the bigger companies and the rule books being republished every 2 or 3 years. And this kind of fear that, well, if we do it online, we're being fair to our base and they don't have to buy another book every 2 or 3 years. But I don't think that's like a zero-sum choice. I don't mind a reference sheet being online. I don't even mind an errata. I mean, if there's a mistake in the rules, then, you know, print out an errata so that we'll know, like, well, that unit shouldn't have a 7 in its combat value. It should be 5, right? That's just an errata. It's like, it just shouldn't have had that. That was a mistake. But I think the problem I always had with when I was playing Warhammer was that it wasn't so much that the book came out every 2 or 3 years. It's that not everybody's book came out every 2 or 3 years. I wouldn't have minded buying a book every 2 or 3 years, but I was a Bretonnian guy, man. When's the last time you saw a Bretonnian army book? Heck, we're not even in Age of Sigmar. They didn't even make it to Age of effing Sigmar, right? So that's the problem I had with it. I don't think nobody ever had a problem with, hey, 2 years, there's the new rule book. We got new art. We got new units. It was, where's Bretonnia at, right? Where's the dwarves at, right? So, and it was like, and I did like a little commentary on my channel about this when the new Warhammer Silver Tower came out. I called it Warhammer Silver Tower Adventures in Hell, right? Because it looks nothing like the old Warhammer Quest. It's not even in the real world. But what I was saying in there was, you know, after a while, all you ever saw were chaos. It was just chaos book, chaos book, chaos book, chaos book, chaos book. They got rid of Bretonnia first, then High Elves went, and then, you know, the Empire went, then the Dwarves went, and finally it was just chaos versus chaos. Okay, Nurgle versus Slaanesh. Literally, it was chaos versus chaos. And I mean, the market probably determined that because that's what the kids wanted. And that was what, you know, the most powerful armies. Every kid wanted the most powerful army. Mm-hmm. So if you have an army full of gods and demons, of course, you're going to want to play that if you're into that. I was into the fluff. I wanted knights. I wanted the Grail Knights. I wanted the Knights Errants. I wanted the Lady, right? And after a while, because you were going to lose if you played that, nobody bought it. And because nobody bought it, Games Workshop or the company didn't support it. Okay. So
There's a cause and effect.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, but if they had done it online, that wouldn't have made me feel no better. Right. I was not going to print out a whole manual online and show up at a table with my lonely online version of the new Bretonian army and everybody looking at me like an idiot. Right. So, I mean, modern day now, I guess for kids growing up where that's all you know is you got into a system and it supported and expanded and supplemented online, then they probably won't have no problem with that. As for me, I would probably never be the type of guy that play a game if I have to constantly go online update. Like, I don't think Saga does that, right? Saga has had a lot of supplements recently. Like Palmer said, they're doing a second edition, but I haven't heard anywhere that you have to go online and get the latest stuff. I think there are some errata out there, but I'm hoping with the second edition, right, that's clean. That's what I like. I want to buy the second edition.
Yeah, they occasionally do stuff on the forum, but it's not just to sort of clarify a question on the rules, you know, things like that, you know. And they do put out an errata or a fact, like you said, you know, that most companies will do that eventually.
But you haven't said where you're at, Palmer. I mean, you started the topic, but you never told us what side you fought.
Yeah, I thought I'd just listen to you guys first so I could figure out how I'll disagree with you guys. I'm just kidding. No, I mean,
our rant goes.
Well, you know, the hard thing is that, you know, in a lot of ways, I really probably agree with you guys in the sense that where I'm coming from, I like a book on the shelf. I like a feeling of containment within a game. Like I like a feeling that this is like, it's kind of cliche to call it a work of art, but in a lot of ways, you know, rule sets and books are, you know, and so I like to see a game and get a feeling of this is like, you know, a contained thing that I have and I want to play. And then it's something to look at and reference with another player. And, you know, if they come out with another edition, then they come out with another edition and, you know, I'll take it from that point. You know, I was thinking about the topic and not just what I think about it, but like what other people may need from this. And I can see folks that are really tournament oriented and games that are really tournament focused at times needing better ways to disseminate information and deal with issues as they come up, because maybe they can't just constantly put an errata out. And in those situations, I understand maybe why they may go towards that direction. But even though I personally don't, kind of like what Dina said, like I don't want to feel like I show up somewhere and I just didn't get last night's download, you know, or, you know, and now I don't know what I'm doing. So from that perspective, I kind of agree. One thing I will say is, and I realize this isn't exactly rules, but I love the online list builders that they're getting into. So like for X-Wing and for Armada, I absolutely love the ability to go online and just do like drop-down menus and grab lists, which is not the same thing, but I like that online kind of tool. I find those are fun and save time and really convenient. You know, you can even like copy them text versions and paste them into old-fashioned Word documents, like things like that, you know, if you want to. So yeah, like I prefer a book and I prefer an edition. The other thing is, the question is like, why is it being updated? Is it because there's a real significant problem that's not handled with just like a fact, like a simple fact after a little bit of time? And one thing that kind of comes up sometimes when talking to people about this is there should have been a lot of play testing done. And are there some rule sets where they're doing some of this stuff as well because they're launching it too quick, or there's a problem with the initial release like that you might not find in some other systems where there is more playtesting and maybe more experience put in? I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
Funny you say that, because I think Spartan Games, they had a game called Uncharted Seas, and I bought the first rule book and a lot of the ships and things, and it's like if you go online, people say don't even bother with the first rule book because it was such a mess. I mean, literally, they say it was such a mess that they had to do a second rule book later, which I wound up buying. But I mean, by then I think the game was on its way. They had almost kind of stopped supporting it because they started doing the Dystopian Wars, and eventually I think it was Halo. Well, Rusty might know about that.
Yeah, I how I got introduced into Spartan games was through Uncharted Seas at a convention, and I was like, oh, this. I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's like how the dice change from different ranges. Like, well, that's innovative. I've never seen something like that before in a game system, and how it's like you roll a bucket of dice up close and you roll a handful at farther out. And the first, you're right. When the first set came out, it just basically was like, here's the core rules. We want to put something out there on the market, and we did. And we weren't sure if this is going to fly or not, and it did. And it took off. And then when you get enough, this is something I've noticed, is that if you don't do a lot of play testing, is that you get enough people out there playing the game, suddenly individuals like me will break it. We'll figure out, it's like, okay, this is something I can manipulate. I can manipulate this. I can see this. Like, I don't think they even thought about putting these two things together. And it's like, and suddenly it's like, oh my God, it's like, I never thought about that. And the next thing I was like, well, that's OP. You got to change it out. And then next thing you know, you got a new rule system. And when you think about playtesting, there's a company that's over there on this island over there across the pond. And I, to be honest with you, I don't think do you ever play test anything? Or you just write some rules and just print it? Because
is there an island is there a game coming out of Hawaii? I'm not sure what you're talking about, an island somewhere?
Well, keep going past Hawaii and get where they print their stuff, and it's this big giant mountainous area. But yeah.
Do they drink a lot of tea on that island?
Yes, they do.
Having said like that, we have to thank that island for a lot of our hobby.
It's like we were just talking about that same island that made this great company called Spartan Games until they decided to pick up that game called Halo, which torpedoed them with their own dice.
Did you ever play Halo? I know you like space games. Did you ever play the Halo space game? Russ?
I played it at the convention, and I liked it so much I bought it, and then I brought it home. I couldn't get anybody to play it here.
Yeah, I haven't painted mine up yet, but I actually liked it at the convention.
Yeah. I played it at Gen Con.
I never did the ground one, though. By the time the ground one came out, they were pretty much out of business.
I talked to Neil at Gen Con because one of the guys I would paint stuff for, he worked for Spartan Games, and they would, he would go up there and because that's when Neil would come in. And I was at Gen Con when they first released what they were going to do with the Halo ground game. And he's like, oh, I got all these great ideas and this and this and this. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's great. But Neil, what about Uncharted Seas? He's like, oh, yeah. Like, well, I have ideas. And then he told me, we spent an hour talking about Uncharted Seas and what he wanted to do with it. And he had some really good ideas what to do for Uncharted Seas. And he was going to totally revamp the whole system. It's like, that'd be great. Let me know when you're going to do that. And it never happened because then the company went out of business.
Speaking of painting, have you seen these crappy English in Blood and Plunder? I mean, holy cow, man. Who they paint those guys?
I don't know. I have no idea.
This Rusty guy, man. This is awful.
I know. It's like I need to get. Yeah, the guy that painted those, I need to get on his case and tell him to get to work because he's been lazy. Because I got these.
Have we exhausted this topic, or do you guys have any other thoughts on it?
I think it's
talk for hours. But did you see this really highly painted French guy? Look at the paint job on. He fell in the coal pit.
Monochromatic, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
I need to get started on my stuff. It kind of like got thrown to the wayside.
Well, yeah, I think maybe we've shared our thoughts on this one. So what do you guys think about doing a bit of a quick roundtable? Because we've got about another 25 minutes if we want, because we were going to do about an hour. What do you guys think about doing a quick roundtable on what's exciting you right now that's to be coming out, some sort of like news item, and maybe start with Deano? What do you guys think about that? Something that you're excited about.
Well, I mean, as far as what I'm excited about, that's normally what I do for the news channel, is when I do the Solo Wargaming Weekly Wargaming News. But I did look up one thing before we got here. Now, we're kind of in an age where everybody's doing terrain. I mean, there's just all kinds of MDF terrain. I personally like paper terrain still that you can cut and assemble. There's plastic terrain or whatever. But it seems like no matter how much they do, you can never really get enough. So I'm hoping if Palmer will help me with this, I'm gonna show you guys this this new terrain item that's coming out, or at least it's supposed to be coming out.
Should be able to hit that green icon on the left side on the top that says screen share. That'll probably work. Unless, or just disappear. Did he just disappear?
Did we lose him?
Yeah, we did, I think. So, Rusty, what are you excited about?
Well, I'll just fill in. I wasn't. About the only thing that I've been delving into that's got me kind of excited is there's rumors that there's supposed to be from Mechanicus all the Forge World stuff, because they have a whole bunch of these back.
Deano, we'll cut back to you in a second. I know we lost you.
Thanks for helping.
Hang on 1 second. You're saying, Rusty?
The Forge World, you know, they have all these wonderful vehicles that are not in any 8th edition books. Wow. I'm seeing myself here.
Yeah. Somebody's microphone's too close to the, or too loud near the speakers.
What we got going on here?
Okay, yeah, we're here. But Rusty, finish your thought on that Forge World.
Okay, so they're supposed to be coming out with a book. I think they said April maybe, and the book will have a lot of the Forge World vehicles from Mechanicus coming out for 8th edition, and that's something. It's like I got some stuff here. It's like, well, geez, I can't play with. If I want to play 8th edition, I can only play it if I want to play Heresy. And play Heresy, you need more rules, and you got 2 different camps now. You got individuals that only play Heresy, and you got one camp that only play 8th edition, and it's like, what do I do? So that's the thing I'm looking forward to, is if they do come out with that, and I probably will make another Forge World, or to pick up some books
yeah, there's nothing worse than having models that you can't use, like because they haven't caught up with the rules or something like that. So I could see how that'd be cool, particularly when they're
like
really inexpensive models, like Forge World models.
Yeah, they're only like $25 a piece, you know.
That's right.
for
so
a wheel.
Deano, I'm heading back to you. Sorry, I guess we lost you there for a moment.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is out from Weird, the guys that do Malifaux. And so what this is actually going to be is a terrain. It almost looks like a set, like almost like a complete set. You get the bottom board, you get buildings. They said you can change floors, like what the different floors represent on the inside. And you're going to get terrain accessories. So like these little, whatever those, like little wooden fences and pavises and things like that. So basically, I'm kind of excited because this is actually taking terrain from simply being a terrain piece now to a totally integrated,
Like
an integrated set.
looks like a terrain square. So they'll have piece. From what I'm envisioning, what they're doing here is you buy this piece and then you buy a different piece and they'll link together.
Well, I don't think they can do that because who would just buy the bottom board? So I think this is going to have to be sold at least with a board and some buildings. Maybe they might. And it looks like the buildings are designed to only go on the board. They don't look like they have independent bases. So
I'm thinking it's from what I'm seeing, it looks like it's just a set piece that you buy it, and that all that stuff that's on there comes in that piece.
Right. That's what I'm thinking too. Now, I mean, obviously, I want to know what the price point is. You know, something south of $100. But
is it a plastic mold or is it resin?
Yeah, it is. I think they said PVC.
Okay.
What I'm seeing at the website. But the buildings are supposed to be stackable other than the roofs. Obviously, you have to take the roofs off.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah. So that's kind of what is interesting, man, is like the terrain is just starting to go crazy out here. And it's kind of funny because you start wondering when should you get rid of your older terrain. Like, I got a lot of stuff out of storage recently. I wound up actually kind of throwing away a lot of my old homemade pieces. Because
click the blue button below. Stop sharing. Otherwise, I'm going to see my twin over there.
Okay.
There we go. We want to see you.
No, but I was saying,
we're working through this.
I've gotten rid of a lot of my own custom built terrain now because that stuff is actually available. Like when I was building terrain probably 10 years ago, you know, like a well or a fence or even some what do you call it, scalpels and things like that. I mean, you can almost get anything now. I mean, you saw the Gangs of War where they have the new Rome terrain, and they've got some pieces where the city is half built. It's like the building frames. You're not even, you don't even have to get the whole building. You can buy these frames. I mean, they've got a Coliseum. So it's exciting, but it's intimidating. Yeah. You know, because of the fact that it's like, wow, you know, at what point are you gonna like have so much terrain? First of all, you have nowhere to store it or use it, but then there's the fear of missing out, right? Yeah. Well, what happens if this Coliseum goes out of circulation if I don't buy it now, right? I need to buy these frame buildings because they might not be making them 3 years from now.
Or you can get it.
And so that's
the Kickstarter.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, you know, that's the thing, that it's exciting, but it's also a little bit intimidating, man. Then you kind of have a hard spot for your old terrain, right?
Yeah.
You know, you got like a spot, and it's like, holy cow. You know, I really remember you. We had some fun games, but man, you're obsolete. You know, you're redundant. Yeah. Yeah,
it's for like in my case is like I just can't wait till one of my kids and so I can take over their room and fill it up full of terrain. Like, sorry, son. But
they're like, go. You're more excited about me going to college than I am, Dad.
You're in there with the measuring tape.
Hey,
go.
Rusty, they come back for spring break and stuff, so you can't take it over permanently because they come back for the summer and spring. So.
Well, my wife has done that. It's like my daughter's up at college at the university right now, and my wife has moved into her room with all of her stuff. That's her she den. So, her man cave. That's her woman cave, I guess you'd call it.
Well, I suppose I'll go with my thing. I'm kind of excited about. There's a couple things. I've kind of talked about these before, and we've been talking about the Saga. I am really excited about the Saga 2nd edition. I think it's been out long enough that it kind of deserves a good 2nd edition. And for like what we were saying before with the rules, I mean, I like a good book, and they've really improved with their products over time with Saga. Like Musket and Tomahawks, the quality of the book itself isn't nearly as good as the first Saga book. But even the first Saga book is pretty dated at this point, and they were working through some things at that time. Their rules have gotten so much better, their publication since then over at Studio Tomahawk. So getting a nice Saga book, and actually one that's just the rules, because I don't know if you guys know, but Saga 2.0, it's going to be basically a very inexpensive sort of core rule book that you can buy, and then they're going to have universes that you then play with it, and they'll all work with those rules. So they'll have sort of a cheap entry level to actually play the game. And then I think they're talking about something like £10 UK for the basic rule. But then, like, let's say you want to play Dark Ages, which is what I want to do and what they're releasing right away. They have the Dark Ages book. And then, like, if you don't want to play Dark Ages, they're going to be doing like a Crusades book, and they're going to be doing a fantasy kind of type. Like, they're talking about Japanese, they're talking about late medieval. And so you can use that original one to then play with the others. And, you know, like, it's allowing them, because the way Saga worked out, they basically expanded upon the rules with each expansion, but it all tied to that first book, and they were never able to, like, change some things that they fundamentally wanted to change about the game over time. This is allowing them to reboot it. So I'm really excited about that. And not to do a pitch or anything, but I did see that that's happening soon. Like, there's a pre-order up now with Gripping Beast. But like, it's not officially announced, although they've shown models, but I'm kind of hoping to see the Adeptus Titanicus come out. There's lots of, and so that's the GW one with the large Titans, and it's sort of like Epic, where it's set in like a, you know, you have your really large kind of robots. It's not like your 28mm guys, like your guys would be like 8mm, and there's like huge, like, kind of Titans that kind of tower over cities and stuff. And I love the 40K stuff. There, Rusty's showing something over there. What do you got, a Titan there? No, that's your BattleTech Titan there. Yeah. Well, so I'm itching, because I haven't really been doing as much Games Workshop stuff. I've been focused on other things. I'm itching for a cool game that'll kind of scratch my itch for the 40K stuff, because I like to read the books and things. And so those are like the two things that I'm kind of really hoping for most.
Yeah, I was saying before is that I'm looking forward to them re-releasing, but I already have a massive, you know, a couple big epic armies to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I'm just basically one of those guys like, all right, you know, I have already set a group of guys that play epic. We play it on a regular basis still. You know, every couple months we play an epic game. So I'm just looking to see what the rules are. If they just release the rule book, I'd be happy, you know, just to see what, if I need anything, or if the box set is something that's like screaming at me, buy.
Yeah. Well, the word on the street from the guy that helped create the rules on Facebook is that they're going to be likely, they initially were going to do Forge World resin, but they're going to be doing plastic kits. And the word, I think, is that they're likely going to be providing terrain, which I think is awesome. I'm really, for some reason, I'm like more excited that they're in the box, that there's going to be terrain than the actual like rules in the Titans. Because anytime you start something new, like terrain is the hardest thing. Like, you end up with like a blank table with guys on it, right? And so
what they've been doing lately is the box is the terrain. That's what they did with Necromunda and some of the other ones. So you think it's going to be terrain in the box? Yeah, it is the box. Yeah. It's the terrain. Cool, but I mean, you know, it's a hack too. It's a little bit of a hack to call it terrain. I mean, it's the box.
It's the Happy Meal. It's like getting a Happy Meal.
Yeah, I remember those old Happy Meals, right? My thing with Saga is, you know, they got to come out with one of two things, to be honest with you, especially if they're going to try to go like into fantasy and different armies. They either have to do a deluxe dice pack where you can get 5 or 6 factions at a discount, right? Or they're going to have to do a sticker sheet, because as it is now, I mean, you're looking at $20 for every dice set you buy. And I mean, they're nice dice. I like them. Right? I have probably 3 sets now. But, I mean, come on, man. I mean, there's a lot of people. I think they're under the assumption, well, you'll buy the army book you like and your dice, and that's it.
Yeah.
But a lot of us buy, you know, multiple. Like, you know, I might want to play the Danes. I might want to play Welsh. I might want to play Crusaders. I might want to play Muslims. So depending on who I'm showing up with, I might want to bring a different army, and I don't want to spend $100 on dice.
Yeah.
That I can't even use for nothing but Saga, right? You got $100. I mean, they're nice looking dice, but other than Saga, they're useless. So they either have to do a discount where, hey, you get all 5 of these Dark Age faction dice, maybe for $75, right? Or they're going to have to do sticker sheets. You can right now that do sticker sheets on eBay, and they go for like $12 to $13 for one faction, and they're pretty crappy, right? Because I looked at doing that before I actually started buying the dice.
Well, and there's a guy that does a show on YouTube, and I know maybe you guys know the name. It's sort of something like the Wisco something gamer, and he does the Saga Thursday.
Yeah.
And so he did a show talking about dice, and it was a good one. And even like a lot of the guys that are even like hardcore Saga players are getting various forms of their own dice, and it's either sticker sheets or they're getting ones that are made, off the market and stuff. So I think most of them probably have 1 or 2 sets, like you talked about, Deano, where it's like the actual brand. But then a lot of them, if you're playing a lot of armies, it's really not practical to spend that much for every army if you're doing a lot of armies, I think. I agree.
Now, you guys play Saga. I've never played it. So when you're talking about the dice, what is the effects of the dice? Is it something that can be easily done with just? Is it like a D6 or is it D8?
No, they kind of activate powers. So you kind of roll dice, and then you collect sets or combinations, and you place them on a board, and the board tells you what kind of skill or power you can activate when you have all those dice and when you spend them. So,
okay.
you could kind of like say, well, there's 4 of these symbols on this dice and 2 of these symbols. But it's not the same for every faction, so it would be kind of a Herculean task to like write it out on a sheet of paper for every single faction. What each dice should have on it. If they had done a chart which simply said if you roll 2, this is this symbol, or 3, this is this symbol, then it might have been easier. But to sit down and do it by yourself, that would kind of be comprehensive. Plus, you'd have to have already bought all the dice to sit down and write out a chart like that.
Well, and just to add on to that, what I would say is, as much as they're really expensive, and I completely agree with Dino's point, it's not really sustainable to get like 5-6 armies and buy 5-6 sets of dice. But having said that, I find it's so much fun to play Saga with an actual set of Saga dice, or at least dice with the symbols.
Oh yeah, 100. I'm 100. It really adds that kind of unique period feel to it with your dice, and you're trying to hope to get that combo to activate your rage or something.
Yeah, and they say in the book that you can, Rusty, use a 6-sided die and just use the 6 as like your most rare symbol. But the reality is, it adds to the experience to the game to see the symbols like that match the symbols on your chart, rather than having to make another step disconnect to like 6 equals this. That, prolonged over the course of the game isn't as fun, I don't think, personally. And I've said this, like I've played Saga games, and my friend and I would kind of smile at each other and say like, yeah, this is a complete ripoff to buy like too many of these, but we love these dice.
Right. That's how I feel, man. It's like, it, but you love those dice, man.
Similar to like with Malifaux, with the card decks.
Oh, that's it. I don't know how you guys play that. I don't know about pulling cards as your their combat in Malifaux is all cards. There's literally no rolling dice for their combat. They just flip cards, and that's like an attack.
Yep.
Which to me seems so. It's like it takes away that visceral feel of you actually struck somebody. Right? Flipping a card is not like, bam, I wrote those dice. It's like, oh, I have an 8. That's 2 damage. 2. Right? I like them dice where you shake them in the guy's face. It's like swinging a sword, man. That's like swinging a sword when I roll my dice.
Yeah, it's like when we used to play Magic the Gathering way back, and it's like you're playing cards, and then Malifaux feels like you're moving stuff around, but you're using cards. It feels like that's what you're doing. You're just using the figures on the board to represent what's going on with your card deck.
I did find Malifaux interesting when I tried it. I'm not really seasoned with it, but I have played it. I do think it's neat when they try different things. I don't want to get rid of my dice games by any means, but I do think it's kind of neat when they try different things just to do something different, than everybody else. But, I haven't played it enough to have a final word on it.
Well, it's no different. We both play. Well, you play Star Wars, you play Armada. It's got different dice in that too. It's another game where you have different totally sets of dice, but you only need one set to play the game. You don't have to go out and buy more for each time you get a different army.
Right. Yeah, Deano, we're venturing into like a big topic because like Deano just did like a show on like game components and dice and stuff.
This is the rebuttal to Deano here.
What, the cards? Oh, cards? You don't want that show, Rusty. You don't want to hear my show on playing cards for combat mechanisms and war games. I actually just did up a homemade set of rules because I've been buying a lot of Western figures yet, and I don't really have any Western rules I like. I mean, I have one set that I haven't looked at called Legends of the West, which was by the old Warhammer Historical. But what I actually did with this set of rules, and I'm going to do a battle report on it, is I have one dice for every bullet in the guy's gun. So you roll dice. You roll dice. When he fires his 6-shooter, what you got? Is that a Western?
Yep. Let's see. Hang on here. I'll go into you. I'm going to you there.
I play Western games.
Cool.
Is that?
I think so. I've had these guys for so many years, I forgot where I got them.
Rusty, do you have like a card catalog of miniatures there that you pull out every time we talk about something?
Just what's on hand, If you just seen what I'm surrounded by is miniatures. I have a problem. I have to go to Miniatures Anonymous. Yes, I have a problem.
It was funny when you guys did your intro and you were talking about the games you designed. I was thinking, yeah, I haven't designed any games. And then you started talking about the Army Men, Rusty, and I was thinking, wait a second. When I was a kid, I used to throw gummy bears down, and I would roll dice to see which ones would win and who would get eaten next. And so, in some ways, I guess I did make a war game.
What was the range on your gummy bears?
They were legit. They were not knockoffs.
I meant the distance. How far could you legally throw the gummy bear?
This was like Vikings. This was like complete melee.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't up for the shooting at that point. They were all in there.
Yeah, this first drinking game, but it was an eating game.
That's right. That's right. Well,
my final thought on this, because Palmer was talking about he likes games that try different things, and I totally agree with that. But the one area to me that is sacrosanct when it comes to a game or tabletop game is combat. If I'm doing combat, I need to be rolling dice, man. I'm sorry. Rolling the dice is like pulling the trigger, swinging the sword, detonating the bomb, and I don't think there's any other visceral mechanism you can do that gives you that same thrill or anticipation. I mean, doing cards, I've seen games where you refer to a chart. You don't even do combat. You just line your guys up, and I've got 4. They've got muskets. They're at this range. 3 of your guys are dead. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Right. But I do appreciate games that try different things. But as far as to me, when it comes to tabletop, the dice will always be sacrosanct. There was a game called Ex Illis, which had real good miniatures. It even had molded terrain boards, and it had a computer-assisted combat, which when you think about it, it's like, well, hey, that's cool. But, the game was dead within a year because I think there was just something that you would go to a convention, you see these great miniatures and you play them, and then the guy would refer to the computer and walk back over and say, okay, that they got pushed back. And you're like, oh, they did?
I didn't see it.
I didn't see my knights get pushed back, baby. My knights don't get pushed back. Roll it again. Well, there's no roll. We'll roll it again.
Yeah, I think you got a good point there, and I think for a lot of us that started in tabletop gaming, it's always been dice, right? So that when you mention that, like, you got to be able to throw those dice. I mean, a lot of people could probably identify with that. I think so. But guys, we're approaching the final minute here of the first show. So I don't know.
Hour.
Just getting started.
I said we made an hour.
Yeah,
we hit the hour.
we didn't have to find too much to talk about. So yeah,
No,
I guess. Sorry, Rusty.
It's like we're just like what we're doing now is like what we do with my buddies. We're sitting around, we start just yammering on, and next thing you know, it's like you lose hours.
That's right. That's right.
Stop bragging. Stop bragging about having buddies. You know, me and Palmer don't have it.
You're the one that's called the solo wargamer.
Actually, I meant just me.
Well, this was the first episode of the 3 Musty Wargamers, and we don't talk about how we came up with that name. To be a Musty Wargamer, you don't talk about how we came up with that. We couldn't call ourselves the 3 Rusty Wargamers because we only have one Rusty. So that's kind of what we came up with.
The dungeon stays in the dungeon.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. That's going to be our motto, man.
All right. Well, great chat, guys. Looking forward to. I think we said we're going to be looking at doing these like once a month.
Or center.
And I'll just let everybody know we're going to be creating a playlist on our separate channels. So if you're not watching this now, we will link to each other's episodes in our playlist on YouTube.
Yeah, so you'll always be able to find an episode regardless of who hosted it. We didn't really talk about that a whole lot, but this is basically 3 equal co-hosts. Even though I'm in the driver's seat tonight, that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes it's going to be actually on other people's channels, and like we're ideally going to rotate every one. And so like Dino just said, you can look down in playlists and find any of these episodes in any one of our channels, but it will be good to subscribe to all 3 of our channels just to be able to see it when it goes live. All right, anything else to add, you guys?
I'm good.
All right, well, see everybody next time. We're out.
Peace out.
God